So we're going to take a look at changing between these two types of fractions, okay? So this one here, this is known as an improper fraction. And the reason they call it that is just because the numerator, which is the number on top, is greater than
the one on the bottom.
Than the one on the bottom. It's the only reason.
Denominator.
Exactly. So when they're like that, there's nothing wrong with that. You can leave it like that. In fact, in a lot of the fraction operations that you'll do later, whether it's multiplication, division, adding, subtraction, it works much easier to leave things as improper fractions rather than mixed fractions. So we'll do one switching back to mixed fractions, but usually what you're trying to do is actually change a mixed fraction into an improper fraction so that you can do something with it. So in order to do that, we have to understand what a fraction is, which is that line, which is just a horizontal line between the two numbers. That actually means division. And what we're trying to find is we're actually going to divide the denominator, again, so that's the bottom, we're going to divide our numerator into our denominator. I said that backwards. And then we got to find the remainder. And the remainder, what goes on top here. So if you remember, we kind of set up division like this. Okay, we set it up like this. And now 7 is, what's going on here? Oh my God, I did that backwards again. Here we go. That's not right. There you go. We're going to divide it like this, okay? When we do that, what we're essentially trying to find is how many times 5 goes into that 7. So that's our numerator on top, okay? So I said it right the first time. Sorry about that. 5 goes into 7 once. If I try to fit it in twice, that would get me to 10, which means it wouldn't fit. So right here, this gives us our quotient here. Now, the quotient when we're building a mixed fraction is, we're going to show you the notation here. We'll have like a big box for it. Quotient goes in here, and it's the larger value. I don't have time right now. Go. Okay. What we do from there, though, if we're going to continue that division, is we need to figure out what the remainder of this is. So when it goes in once, we do 1 times 5, and then we subtract. When we subtract that, we end up with a value of 2. And that remainder of 2 is what goes on the top part of the fraction. The denominator, that stays the same the whole time when we make a mixed fraction. So if we go to do this, I'm going to try to color code it. The 1, that's what the whole values are in the fraction, okay? And then the numerator is the remaining value, that's that 2. And the denominator is the same denominator we've had the whole time, okay? Now there's a whole bunch of symbols written around the page. But really what this says is 7 over 5 is equal to 1 2/5, or 2 over 5. And that's it. All we're doing is finding two things that are equal to each other, okay? And again, they may ask you how to do this piece, but it's not as important as being able to do the reverse, which we're going to do next.
Just a question.
Yeah.
So how did, actually, never mind. So the final answer is 7 over 5 equals how do I is it 1?
Yeah, 1, and they could call it 2/5, or you can just say 2 over 5. Okay. That's a more than acceptable way to say that. Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're trying to do. When we're changing between things, we're trying to find two things that are equal to each other. And in math, this is just 2 different notations for writing it. Okay? Now, second piece here is we're going to start at a mixed fraction. So we are a mixed fraction, and we want to change into an improper fraction, because improper fractions, like we said, much easier to carry out operations with. When we go to do that, we first start by taking the denominator and we multiply it by the whole number, okay? So that part's going to be important. We're going to take our 3 times 5, and we have to figure out what that is. And if you got to use a calculator, you can, but I'm going to tell you that ends up being 15, which is good. After you get that, you then take that 15 and you add it to whatever the numerator is. Okay? So, and sometimes we'll show it like this. Let's look an arrow, you add it here after. But sometimes it looks like you're just adding 3, so I don't tend to write it that way, okay? So we multiply the denominator, the bottom, times the whole number. And then whatever we get, we add to the numerator. So in this case, that means we're going to take 15 and we're going to add it to 4, which gives us 19. That is your new numerator. So when we go to rewrite this fraction, this process is a little faster, I find, than the other one. 3 4/5 is equal to 19, because that's our new numerator, and our denominator, which never changes, is still over 5. And that's it. That's the process of switching back and forth between them. It's just a bit of practice to get used to going through it.
How did we get to 3 again?
The 3 was given. This part here,
Mm-hmm.
this was given in the question. So they said that you have a fraction, you have 3 whole parts and 4/5 of a fraction. And we said, okay, we need to turn it into an improper fraction because maybe we're going to do something with it after, maybe multiply or add or whatever it is. So that's why it's important to know how to do this so that we can carry out the next operations in fractions, okay?